I can't help but think if she would have came along the scene in 2015, like when Becky and Soraya and
Yep.
Charlotte and Sasha and
They
all of them come up.
that group. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that. But again, we should talk about it. She signs with WWE. I guess we first see her in WWE in 2002. She wins the freaking belt in her debut. But it doesn't feel like they have much plans for women's wrestling, much less her. They don't really give her a character. I think, you know, she's finished with WWE in November of 2004 when they were doing cost cutting measures. And so now she's free and clear in March of 05, but she doesn't actually sign with TNA until September of 05. I just don't think the WWE was interested in trying to, and I guess we should mention too, the just here in America, the women's movement, like that didn't, I'm not even talking about wrestling. I just mean politically and other things. It didn't really happen until after this to where there was a huge push in women's sports. And I do think that perhaps sometimes people forget the fact that Ronda Rousey enjoying so much success in UFC did start to make people think, oh, maybe we can position that differently. Because prior to Gail coming in WWE, it had mostly been things like, I mean this respectfully, bra and panty type matches, right?
It was Sable and Sunny. Sunny, yeah, Sunny first, then Sable. Those were, when you look back on, all right, who were the top female stars? You remember there was who was the real good Japanese female wrestler and Medusa that had that
Akira Hokuto.
So they had that gosh, but what was her WWF name? But anyway, they kind of had that run, but they were the only two opponents, so that was over and done with. But you know, Sunny came along, then Sable came along, but then, like you said, kind of the bra and panty era, if you will. There was no wrestling.
Are you thinking Aja Kong or Bull Nakano? That's who you're talking about. Yeah. I was thinking WCW, but yeah, I mean, there had not been a lot of that. I mean, even when they tried to be serious with the women's division, I'm talking about with Vince in the 80s, it was short lived.
Yep.
And then they tried it again during the Medusa era, the Alundra Blaze era, and it was short lived. And so then they bring it back for some China stuff, and then they try the Sable experiment, and they just don't really fully commit to the bit. So respectfully, these women are put through a bunch of objectification. I'm not a guy who normally uses that word, but you go back and look at it and you're like, are they really putting girls on all fours and making them bark? Like, what are we doing?
Yes.
But times have changed, and I'm glad they have, but I'm saying I find it curious that she was so far ahead of the curve. Like it's hard for me to imagine you don't have a spot for a person like that, but they weren't ready for it. Here's my question. She's free and clear in March of 05. She doesn't sign with you guys until September of 05. Why not? Did you have the same situation? Like, hey, we don't know how to use her. We're trying to get our money together. We're not sure that we can afford her. We don't have the right division. We don't have the right staff to support her. We're not ready for her. Was that the TNA experience? Because it feels like in March of 05, Double J would have been like, hey, I got to get her now.
So this is something that, you know, history when I really drill back on it, but I go back to the different meetings and having to pitch the brand. Literally, how are you different from WWE? WWE's got all the shelf space, or WWE's doing all the pay-per-view buys, or how do you sell in the business world the TNA brand? And I knew from day one about the X division. They're not going to do this. They're either going to call it the cruiserweight, the light heavyweight. Vince is never going to give opportunities. He likes big guys, you know. Matter of fact, there were times that I thought he'll go back to the big guys because, Brett and Shawn and that era. How's that really going to evolve? But I knew the X division, not about weight limits, about no limits. Even though my dad fought it, Russo fought it, Dutch fought it from time to time. I'm like, guys, it is a style of wrestling that is not going away for multiple reasons. And so that kind of ebbed along. And I knew that, okay, how are we different? Well, we have, in the early days, 3 distinct divisions: heavyweight, tag, and X division. I knew that I wanted to add a 4th division. and make it very clear we have a total nonstop action, not a TNA, a total nonstop action women's division. When I saw Gail, I said, that's it. There's your top baby face. Okay, well, where do we go from here? We got to find them. She became available. We didn't have a lot of valets at the time. I can remember different guys like, well, you're going to make her a babyface. I said, make her a babyface for what? She has no opponent. Let's make her a heel valet and get her over with her athleticism. She don't have to talk. She matter of fact, that may work against her. She doesn't need to be. She needs to be Jeff or America Most Wanted or whoever it is, our heater that wows people with the athleticism, do the building blocks, and we need to start looking for females. And I had it in my mind that they need, they're not going to be these 8 super athletes, all bookends that all look like this. Let's go create 6, 8, 10 characters, real characters, and their characters fit their wrestling style. I can remember Vince and Dutch being, okay, all right, I'll buy into that. I see where you're going with this. Let's do the building blocks. And look, whether it was Dutch or not so much Vince, maybe JB, just some of the talent. When the word kind of got out that we're hiring females and looking for characters on that, little by little, they started coming into play. And, the ratings success came a little bit later. But Gail in the early days, her being put with us as a group, me and America's Most Wanted, it just kind of, I thought, clicked because it gave us a different dynamic. We were just different than everything else on the show.
So we know she's going to essentially debut as a valet, and you don't really have a women's division or anything really for her to do. How frustrated was she to be in the valet role and not able to wrestle? Because I don't think she actually wrestles until July of 2006 in a 6-man. Does that sound right?
I'll say this. There's one attribute that Gail Kim absolutely has, and that's patience. Because, I'll say every TV, but almost often, hey, Jeff, I want to wrestle. Hey, let's figure this out. I mean, it wasn't for lack of, hey, I'm just going to sit here and pick up a check. She always wanted to contribute in a positive way. She just did. And again, this is, people that have just watched the last 15 years of wrestling don't really have an understanding and can't even relate. What do you mean you didn't have a women's division? No, just what Conrad said on the brand of professional wrestling that the whole world knew, WWE, they literally were demeaned. They were, they were doing Kiss My Ass Club over there on Vince and had the women, and we were the alternative, but the WWE there was no sense of competition in a ladies match. It was all I think maybe that's the best way to describe it. There was no sense of being a competitive match. It was all an exhibition of, are we going to see a nipple slip here? Or what are they going to be wearing? Or this or that. There was none of that. Gail knew what was in my mind and others within the company is that we're going to build a women's division, and it just didn't happen overnight. And I'm glad it didn't. We built it the right way.
Did you put Christmas on a credit card? Don't stress out about that extra holiday spending. SaveWithConrad.com can help you consolidate all of your high interest rate credit cards into one much lower monthly payment. SaveWithConrad.com has helped families just like yours save up to $800 a month. You don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket. And did I mention no payments until March? So don't make saving money a resolution next year. Make it happen today at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender.